What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now behind me we got my 2002 Acura RSX Type S with the K20A engine. This car has 264,000 miles on it, and today I'm going to show you guys how to replace a serpentine belt on a Honda or Acura equipped with the K series 4-cylinder engine. So without further ado, let's go ahead change out the serpentine belt on this Acura RSX. Okay, there's going to be one main tool you're going to use in order to get your serpentine belt off. So you got two options here. You got the Pittsburgh Serpentine Belt Toolkit, purchased from Harbor Freight, which will actually have a 14mm crow's foot at the end. Or there's a specific Honda serpentine belt tool. As you can see, it's got some angles right here in the end. Got a larger socket, and I believe the smaller one right here is a 14, and that's what we need, a 14mm. So here's the part number for your reference on the Amazon part. I'll see if I can grab the link and post it down below for your help. So we're going to go ahead and try and start using the specific Honda serpentine belt toolkit. So last time I did this job, I can't recall if I used the Harbor Freight or the specific Honda tool. So let's go ahead and start with this Honda tool right here and see what happens. Alright, first things first, go ahead and open the hood and go ahead and prop it up. As you look over here on your power steering pump side, you can see this belt. This is your serpentine belt. So this wraps around your power steering pump, your alternator, your AC compressor, and the main crank pulley. So looking past this power steering fluid reservoir, as you can see right down here, it's hard to see, but this right here is basically a tensioner. And there's a 14mm bolt right down there, right in the center. As you can see, it's recessed in this pulley, so that's basically the reasoning why the Honda tool has basically built-in sockets to it. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and take your serpentine belt tool and make sure it's on that 14mm bolt firmly. You don't want that thing on the side, because you don't want this thing rounding out. And a serpentine belt tool, it's pretty tall, because this spring right here, it's pretty tough on that tensioner. So you're going to come over here and you're going to go towards the front of the car, and that's going to basically release tension off this belt right here. And this might be a two-person job. It is a little tough, you know, doing it by yourself, but I managed to do so. And then so once you have your serpentine belt tool pushed towards the front of the car, you're going to definitely feel the tension. You're going to see this belt loose. So go ahead, remove the belt from this power steering pump right here, and then you can go ahead and proceed to unwrap this thing from the engine and pull it out from the top. Okay, this step is going to make your life a lot easier. Go ahead, raise up the front of the car with the central jacking point with a floor jack, and go ahead, support both front sides, passenger and driver, with floor jacks. And then go ahead, remove your wheel and tire, and then you got straight access into the wheel well. Now, in order to remove this shield, you got two plastic clips, one here and right, one here on the left. It clips in the body right there and right there. So go ahead and remove those plastic clips, pull the shield down the way, and now we got straight access to the serpentine belt. So this is your main crank pulley, and that's your AC compressor. So this will help you in the routing stages when we get to that part about putting a new belt on. Let's go ahead and pull up this reservoir right here. Maybe we can get some better access. Let's see what we got. Okay, it gives us a lot more access by just go ahead and lifting up this reservoir and just rest in position on the core support. As you can see right there, that's our 14mm bolt right there. And that's basically what we're going to be putting tension to in order to relieve tension on the entire belt. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're going to go ahead and take our serpentine belt tool, and this is the 14mm side, and I'm going to go ahead and stick it as far back as I can. We're going to place it onto the bolt. Okay, so now it's placed on. Basically, this is how much leverage you have. And this thing sticks out of the engine a good 2 foot almost. And then I'm going to grab a hold of this and I'm going to pull forwards to the car. And what that's going to do, that's going to basically relieve tension on the belt. And you're going to see the tension come off this. So what you want to do while you're pulling forward, hold this stick in position, don't let this thing slip, and then go ahead and carefully pull it off the power steering pump. And then we can go ahead and remove the belt entirely from the car. So let's go ahead and remove the serpentine belt. Alrighty, so the old Serpentine belt is officially removed from the Acura RSX. Now it definitely helps out when you have the shield removed and the wheel and tire removed. Alrighty, so the old Serpentine belt is officially removed from the Acura RSX. Now as you can see right here on this custom motor mount, now my tensioner is basically stuck right now because the tensioner wants to go even further back. But however, my tensioner is locked in position, so I'm going to have to work around this tensioner when I route the new belt on. And speaking of routing the new belts, let me show you what's going on. So this printout I've had for years. So basically this is the orientation of the Serpentine belt for the K20A engine right here for my Acura RSX. So basically this is what you need to follow. So the final steps is going to be routing the belt around this power steering pump right here. So we're going to get it on all the components, you know, the lower crank pulley, compressor, this pulley right here, the alternator, and of course the tensioner, and last but not least, the power steering pump. So let's go ahead, feed the new belt into the engine, but before doing so, let me show you what belt we got. Okay, so this right here is our new Serpentine belt. This is made by Gates. Gates is an OEM supplier to many vehicle makers, including Honda and Acura, just an FYI. Now, if I were to get an OEM Honda belt, I think I looked up the price and those were $70. I got this on HomeDepot.com for about $21 shipped, which ain't too shabby. So if this is an OEM supplier, there's really no reason to buy the OEM belt. So Gates Serpentine belts and Gates timing belts, you really can't go wrong if you're going aftermarket. So here's the part number for your reference. If you have an Acura RSX Type S, and if you've got a Honda Acura with a different K-Series engine, just go on the Gates website, enter the vehicle information, it'll actually display what model number you need for your application. Okay, enough talking. Let's go ahead, get the new Serpentine belt into the Acura RSX. Alright guys, we're so close right now. I fought with this belt for about 20 minutes. Now let me tell you, there's some tight working spaces in these RSXs. So it might be easier for Honda Accords or Acura TSX or whatever you're working on, but this RSX is no fun to work on, let me tell you. So anyways, main crank is routed, and it's on the AC compressor as well. And then there's a pulley right there, you can barely see it. That was a tricky one right there, because that wraps almost all the way around that. And then right there, I'm partially on the alternator, and then the back side of the belt right there is right onto the tensioner. So obviously I can't do this with one hand right now, but we're so close. See, here's the belt right here. So when I take my Serpentine belt tool and push it towards the front of the car, it's going to release tension. I need to go ahead and lift up on this belt right here and drape it on top of the power steering pump right there. So that's what's going on right here. This is very stressful for me, so cross your fingers. I really hate messing with these tensioners. So I'm going to go ahead, start the recording process, and wish me luck. See if we can get this draped on the power steering pump successfully. Alrighty guys, believe we're successful, putting the new Serpentine belt in position. It was a little stressful doing this, and I hate pulling the tension on that thing, but it is what it is. And finally I had to work around the Serpentine belt tool since it was stuck in position due to the motor mount. Anyhow, I'll show you the routing position right here. So it goes on top of the power steering pump, and then it comes straight down onto the alternator right there. So once the Serpentine belt leaves the alternator on the 7 o'clock position, it basically drapes itself on the backside of a pulley. So basically the backside of this belt wraps around the pulley, and then it drapes right on the AC compressor, and then it goes straight across the main crank. And then once the belt goes around the main crank, it actually takes an angle, and then the backside of the belt actually goes along the tensioner, and then the belt goes right up above the power steering pump. So that's basically the routing position. And here's one last look at the belt routing diagram for an Acura RSX. I'm pretty sure it's all similar for K-Series engines, but go ahead, do yourself a favor and make a printout from the service manual for your car, because this thing does get confusing when you're working the engine bay trying to route the new belt in position. All right, so I believe we're all successful here. Let's go ahead, put back the reservoir for the power steering, and that just basically pushes down and clips. Probably have to get a replacement piece right here, a little surface rust, so I add that to the junkyard list. And then we'll go ahead, take our wheel and tire, mount it back on the car, and then go ahead, jack the car up, take the jack stands out, and then go ahead and torque the lug nuts and the wheel lock. And then we'll go in the car, start the car up, and make sure the belt's not making any funny noises. So that right there, folks, is how to replace a serpentine belt on a K-Series engine for a Honda or Acura. So many of you guys are probably asking, why did you go ahead and replace the serpentine belt? Now, I believe the interval is 90,000 miles for my Acura RSX, but I went ahead and replaced this belt with an aftermarket, and I don't know if you can see all these micro cracks right here. It just gives me no confidence. I can't remember the brand of this thing. I'm gonna have to go in the trunk and get the label, but you know, as you can see on the outside right here, it's got a little bit of wear. So I just don't have too much confidence in the serpentine belt. Now, I don't know if you remember the Acura CL Type S that I had, but basically I was on a road trip on Thanksgiving Day to North Carolina, and that serpentine belt just snapped as I was on the Virginia North Carolina line. And luckily that car got me another hour and a half down the road. Had to get towed the rest of the way to the house, but it is what it is. So always pay special attention to your serpentine belts. Even if it doesn't have wear and tear on it, just go ahead and replace it for safety. I mean, these things are only 20 bucks, and it gives you a major peace of mind. Okay, let's go ahead and get this car put back together, put it back on the ground, and we'll be in business. All right, this is the perfect opportunity to show you guys the belt routing sequence on a K-Series engine, since I got my K24A engine on the engine stand before it goes into Project CB9. So this basically right here is the orientation of the serpentine belt. Just pretend we have an AC compressor right here, which we don't right now. So if I go ahead and pull this belt tight, pretending this location where my fingers are at is the AC compressor. And this right here, folks, is the belt routing sequence for a serpentine belt on a K-Series engine. And this right here is actually your tensioner. Let me show you how this works. So you got your long serpentine belt tool made specifically for Honda. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 14mm side onto this bolt right here. So I'm going to give you guys a demonstration of the serpentine belt tool and how it relieves tension off this tensioner right here. You're going to see this tensioner go back this way. All right, so check this out. Grabbing the tensioner tool on the top, and I'm going to the front of the vehicle, and look at the tensioner right there. See how it moves? That's releasing tension off the belt right there. So that's basically how your auto tensioner functions on your K-Series engine. And then just remember, where my fingers are at is where the AC compressor will be, but this engine doesn't have an AC compressor. So I believe that's a close enough illustration of belt routing sequence on a K-Series engine. Alrighty guys, got the new serpentine belt installed on the K20A within the RSX, and everything is working and sounding like it should. In fact, last weekend I drove 100 miles round trip and it performed flawlessly. Much more peace of mind compared to the dry rotted belt we just replaced. Now if you're going to do this on your K-Series engine, just make sure you have the right serpentine belt tool, as there's very limited working space to work with, especially how close it is to the shock tower. Typical 14mm ratchets and wrenches won't work due to the space restrictions. Now if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.